My grandson told me to look under the table at his father's wedding, and the moment I did, the perfect world my son was trying to rebuild shattered into a million pieces. My name is Judith. I'm a 72-year-old writer from Boston, and life has taught me that the scariest demons often wear the faces of angels. Today, I want to share my family's story with you, a tale of horrifying betrayal hidden behind a beautiful smile. So please, pull up a chair and tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? That day, Michael's wedding day, was supposed to be a happy one. The manor was decorated to the nines, and the afternoon sun poured like honey through the stained glass windows, painting the oak floors a brilliant gold. A string quartet was playing a piece by Vivaldi, and the scent of hundreds of white lilies, pure and strong, filled the air. Everything was perfect. Almost too perfect, like something out of a storybook. I was sitting at table number 8, a place of honor for the family. Next to me was my 7-year-old grandson, Noah, the little soul I love more than life itself. He looked so small in his neat little suit, with his slender shoulders and his eyes constantly looking down, avoiding all the commotion around him. In his tiny hand, he kept fiddling with a silver piano keychain, the last gift his mother, Emily, had given him before a tragic car accident took her from us forever 3 years ago. My heart ached. The pain of losing Emily had never truly gone away. It just settled like silt at the bottom of a lake, and today it was all stirred up again. I looked up towards the altar where my son Michael was standing. At 40, he was still a handsome man, a talented architect, but I could see the weariness behind his bright smile. It was the smile of someone desperately trying to believe that happiness had found him again. And the woman standing beside him, holding his hand, was Jessica. Jessica Miller. She was stunning in her satin silk wedding gown, exquisitely designed and elegant, frighteningly elegant. It took me a moment to realize it was nearly a carbon copy of the dress Emily had worn on her wedding day. And tucked into her perfectly coiffed dark brown hair was a single white lily. White lilies again, Emily's favorite flower. I don't believe in coincidences, especially not when they're this deliberate. Jessica's smile was the same. It was crafted to please everyone, but it never quite reached her eyes. Her green eyes were cold and sharp, scanning the crowd as if she were sizing everyone up, not sharing her joy. My son, lost in his longing to be loved again, couldn't see what I saw. He wasn't in love with Jessica. He was in love with a ghost she had painstakingly built from the pieces of Emily's memory. After the ceremony, the reception began. Michael and Jessica made their way from table to table. When they reached ours, Jessica bent down, that perfect smile still plastered on her face. "See, Judith, we're a family now." I just nodded, forcing a polite smile. But then she turned to Noah. "Hey there, champ. See, from now on, I'll take care of you and your daddy. We're going to be one big, happy family." Her voice was sweet as honey, but I saw Noah flinch. He didn't answer, just clutched his piano keychain tighter, his eyes glued to the white tablecloth. Jessica didn't seem to notice, or perhaps she chose not to. She straightened up, took Michael's hand, and they moved on, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. The party went on, the clinking of glasses, the sound of laughter, but for me, it was all muffled. A sense of unease was coiling in my chest, cold and solid as a block of ice. I cut a piece of bread for Noah, but he just shook his head. He hadn't touched a thing all evening, and then it happened. A tiny moment that shattered everything. As he bent down to pick up a dropped fork, the piano keychain slipped from Noah's hand. The sound of metal hitting the oak floor made a sharp, lonely clink amidst the cheerful music. "Oh no, Mommy's piano," he whispered, horrified. He started to duck under the table to get it, but then he froze. His whole body went rigid. I leaned down. "What is it, sweetie? Grandma will get it for you." Noah looked up at me. His face was pale, his lips trembling as he tried to speak. He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his small fingers ice cold. "Grandma," he whispered, his voice shaking, I want to go home. Right now. I'm scared. What's wrong, Noah? Tell Grandma what happened. My heart started to pound, a terrible feeling washing over me. He shook his head frantically, tears welling in his eyes. He leaned in close to my ear, his voice barely a whisper. Grandma, you haven't looked under the table, have you? That innocent question felt like a knife in my chest. Trying to stay calm, I gently stroked his hair. It's okay, honey. Let Grandma see what's under there. I slowly lifted the edge of the crisp white tablecloth. Underneath was a dim space, a tangle of table legs, chair legs, and Noah's little shoes. The silver piano keychain lay there, gleaming faintly. But next to it, there was something else. A white napkin, neatly folded into a square, sitting right beside Noah's chair. Its presence, in what should have been an empty space, sent a shiver down my spine. I ducked all the way under, ignoring any curious glances I might be getting. My hand trembled as I picked up the napkin and the keychain. The paper felt light as a feather, but it weighed on me like a stone. I got back in my seat, and Noah pressed against me, shaking. Around us, people were still laughing and toasting. But for me, the world had shrunk to just me, my poor grandson, and this damnable piece of paper in my hand. I carefully unfolded it. The flickering candlelight on the table was just enough to read the slanted, delicate handwriting. A handwriting I recognized from the thank you card Jessica had sent me a few weeks ago. The note was short, just one line. Table 8, child's portion, add pecan tart. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Pecan tart? No, not that. I felt the air leave my lungs. Our whole family, our close friends, anyone who knew the Walkers knew one thing. Noah has a severe nut allergy. It could send him into anaphylactic shock. And of all the nuts, pecans were the most dangerous for him. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the name of that dessert. Pecan tart was Emily's signature dessert, a secret recipe passed down from her grandmother that she only made at Christmas. Its taste was the taste of family, of warmth, of the unconditional love Emily had for all of us. It was a symbol of everything we had lost. And now, that woman, the one who copied my daughter-in-law's wedding dress, who wore her flower in her hair, was trying to use Emily's most beautiful symbol to kill her only son? This wasn't carelessness. This wasn't an accident. This was a calculated act of cruelty. An act designed not only to murder an innocent child, but to destroy, defile, and erase the memory of my son's late wife. I unconsciously crumpled the note in my hand, feeling rage and horror rise up in me like a storm. I looked over at Jessica. She was standing in a corner, raising a glass of champagne, laughing with a guest, her face aglow with fake happiness. How could a person hold so much cruelty behind such a beautiful smile? I took a deep breath, trying to slow my racing heart. I had to get Noah out of there immediately. I looked into my grandson's clear, tear-filled eyes. I would not let anything happen to him, not ever. Jessica's game, her perfect little play, had to end. A blazing anger rose in me, hot and fierce, but a grandmother's instinct held it back. Right now, Noah's safety was all that mattered. Besides, I didn't have enough proof. I didn't know who put that note there. I bent down and wrapped my arms around his small, trembling body. "It's okay, my love," I whispered, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "We're going home now. Grandma's not feeling too well." I stood up, clutching the note in one hand and holding Noah's with the other. Michael saw us immediately, Jessica close behind, a flicker of confusion on her face. "Mom, Noah, what's wrong?" my son asked, worry etched on his face. "Noah doesn't seem well. I think the room is a bit stuffy. "I'm going to take him home," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. I avoided looking at Jessica. I was afraid if I did, I'd lose control and rip her perfect mask right off in front of everyone. "Oh my goodness!" Jessica exclaimed, placing a hand on her chest dramatically. "Should I come with you? Let me call a doctor." "That won't be necessary," I cut her off, my voice cold. "He just needs to go home and rest." Michael looked confused, but he knows me. He knows when I'm dead serious. "Okay, Mom, get him home safe. I'll be back soon." He bent down to kiss his son's forehead, but Noah just pressed closer to me without a word. As I led Noah through the grand hall, I could feel Jessica's eyes on my back, sharp, probing. Maybe she was wondering where her plan went wrong. My silence, instead of an explosion, must have confused her. Good. Let her be confused. The storm was just gathering its strength, and when it hit, it would sweep everything away. Back home, after giving Noah some warm milk and rocking him to sleep in the safety of my arms, I sat alone in the quiet living room. The damned note was still on the table, a silent accusation. I knew I couldn't act recklessly. Michael was blinded by love. He wouldn't believe me without solid proof. And Jessica was too cunning to be defeated by mere accusations. I needed something concrete, something that would shatter her facade completely. I needed to understand. Why? Why would any woman be so cruel? A few days later, Michael and Jessica returned from their short honeymoon in Cape Cod. I used the excuse of bringing over some homemade cookies to visit them. The house, once my son and Emily's warm home, had changed. The cream-colored linen curtains Emily loved were replaced with heavy, dark blue velvet drapes. Her grand piano was still there, but the lid was closed, covered in a thin layer of dust. Every trace of Emily was being systematically erased. I was sitting with Noah in the living room, Michael was on an important call in his study, and Jessica was upstairs taking a shower. I seized the opportunity, asking my grandson as gently as I could, "Did you have fun on your trip with Daddy and Miss Jess?" The moment I said the name Jess, a visible change came over him. His small shoulders tensed up. He didn't answer, just shook his head, his hand gripping the piano keychain so tightly his knuckles turned white. His clear eyes were fixed on the staircase with unconcealed fear. I knew this wasn't just a child's shyness around someone new. This was terror. The kind of terror a child only has when they know a scary secret they can't tell. Just then, a small accident happened. Noah was holding a glass of apple juice, and perhaps from the tension, his hand trembled, spilling some onto the new cream-colored wool rug I knew Jessica had just bought. A pale yellow stain appeared, standing out starkly. At that exact moment, Jessica came down the stairs, a towel wrapped around her hair. The smile on her face froze when she saw the stain. But Michael had just finished his call and was walking out of his study. The act immediately went up. "Oh, it's okay, sweetie," she said, her voice dripping with honey. "It was just a little accident. Don't you worry." She knelt beside Noah, pretending to inspect the rug. But from my perfect vantage point, I saw everything. Out of Michael's line of sight, Jessica's hand shot out and grabbed Noah's upper arm. It wasn't a comforting touch. It was like an iron clamp. I saw her perfectly manicured red nails dig deep into my grandson's tender skin. Noah's face contorted in pain, but he didn't dare make a sound. And then I heard Jessica's voice, no longer sweet, but a venomous hiss, quiet enough for only Noah and me to hear. "You clumsy little brat, just like your mother, always ruining my perfect things." The words were poison. It wasn't just a scolding, it was an insult to the dead. She let go the instant Michael turned back to ask what was wrong. On Noah's arm, 5 red finger marks were already forming, a silent testament to her cruelty. My blood boiled. I had my answer. This wasn't simple jealousy. This was a deep, pathological hatred. I had to swallow my rage, a fury so hot it felt like it was choking me. I told Michael I was taking Noah up to the library to read to him. It was an excuse. I needed to search. I had to find proof. After calming Noah down, assuring him that Grandma was here for him, I went up to the attic, using the excuse of looking for some old family photo albums. The attic was dusty and filled with old things. I searched desperately, not even sure what I was looking for. And then, in a dark corner, I saw it. An old wooden chest, not one of the Walkers, with a yellowed label taped to it. Keepsakes J.M. Jessica Miller. My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands shook as I opened the rusty latch. Inside wasn't old clothes or normal memorabilia. Inside was a shrine to Emily. Dozens of newspaper clippings about my daughter-in-law's concerts from her days as a young pianist. A single white lily carefully pressed between two sheets of blotting paper. And at the very bottom, a black leather-bound diary. I sank to the dusty floor and tremblingly opened it. The handwriting was neat, but the words were twisted and insane. It was a detailed account of Jessica's obsession with Emily, stretching back years. May 15, 2011. Saw Emily Hansen's picture in the paper again. That smile, that talent. She has everything. Why not me? Why is life so unfair? September 22nd, 2015. Heard she's engaged to the architect Michael Walker. A perfect life. It's sickening. I deserve that. June 4, 2021. Emily Hansen died in an accident. How tragic. But also, how convenient. A space has opened up. Maybe this is fate. I was horrified. This wasn't a woman in love with my son. This was a predator who had been stalking my family for a long time, waiting for her chance to take Emily's place. Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? An elderly woman's voice, trembling but refined, came through. I'm so sorry to bother you. Am I speaking with Mrs. Judith Walker? Yes, this is she. My name is Eleanor Albright. You don't know me, but I was almost Jessica Miller's mother-in-law. I held my breath. Mrs. Albright explained that she'd read about Michael's wedding in the Boston Globe's society pages, and the name Jessica Miller had made her blood run cold. She told me her only son, James, had been engaged to Jessica 5 years ago. Their family tragedy was that her youngest daughter, Clara, a beautiful and talented girl, had passed away from a heart condition. During the engagement, Jessica began a horrifying transformation. She started wearing Clara's clothes, copying her hairstyle, even using the deceased girl's favorite phrases. It all came to a head when James found Jessica had stolen Clara's diaries and was trying to live out his sister's life. They broke off the engagement immediately. I debated whether I should call Mrs. Walker, Mrs. Albright said, her voice full of anguish. But my conscience wouldn't let me rest. I found the number for the Walker Manor in an old directory. Please, be careful. That woman doesn't just want to be your son's wife. She wants to steal a soul. I dropped the phone, my whole body ice cold. Every piece of the puzzle clicked into a terrifyingly perfect picture. Jessica's obsession with Emily wasn't love. It wasn't simple jealousy. It was a sickness, a dangerous and methodical psychological illness. She didn't want to love Michael. She wanted to be Emily. And Noah, my sweet grandson, wasn't a stepson. In Jessica's eyes, he was the final obstacle. The living proof of Michael and Emily's love, something she had to erase to complete her performance. I closed the chest, clutching the diary to my chest. I had the proof, undeniable proof. I walked down from the attic, my heart heavy, but my mind strangely clear and cold. The diary in my hand felt like a sword of justice, and the note from the wedding was in my pocket, cold as a stone. I wasn't scared anymore, and I wasn't hesitating. I had one goal: protect my family and expose the monster living under this roof. Michael and Jessica were in the living room, pretending to watch TV. The air between them felt tense. Maybe Michael had sensed something was wrong, a crack in the perfect world he was trying to build. They looked up as I entered. Jessica's smile was a bit strained when she saw the look on my face. "Mom, did you find the books?" I didn't answer. I walked straight to the walnut coffee table. First, I pulled the napkin from my pocket and placed it calmly on the table. "I think we need to talk about this." Jessica glanced at the note, her face losing color for a split second before the perfect act was back in place. "Why, Jessica? Why would you do this?" I asked, looking her straight in the eye. "Do you hate my grandson so much you had to resort to this?" "What are you talking about?" Michael cut in, looking confused. "What's wrong with that note?" Jessica seized the opening. "Michael, look at your mother," she sobbed, turning to my son. I don't know what she's talking about. This must be some kind of mistake." "There's no mistake," I said, my voice sharp. I spoke to the young waitress who prepared the food at the reception. She remembers it clearly. She said you, Jessica, gave her this note, telling her it was a special request, a surprise for the groom's son. I emphasized every word. "A surprise, Jessica? Pecan tart for a child with a severe nut allergy. Is that the kind of gift you wanted to give Noah?" Jessica's act began to crumble. Cornered with a witness, the "I didn't know" defense was useless. She switched tactics, playing the victim. She turned to Michael, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, you have to believe me. That waitress must be mistaken. Or your mother paid her off. I know she's never accepted me. She's always trying to undermine me. She's trying to ruin our happiness. Besides, how was I supposed to know he was allergic? You never told me how serious it was." Michael, torn between his mother's words and his wife's tears, looked at me pleadingly. "Mom, maybe it's just a misunderstanding. I'm sure Jess didn't mean any harm. Maybe I was careless and didn't explain it properly." I looked straight into Jessica's fake, tear-filled eyes, my voice like a razor. "You didn't know?" A woman who researched this family so thoroughly that she wore a wedding dress nearly identical to Emily's, who wore Emily's favorite flower in her hair, didn't know that my only grandson has a life-threatening nut allergy, a fact known by anyone close to the Walker family? Jessica cried harder, collapsing against Michael's shoulder, her body shaking. "I knew she never accepted me. She's always trying to tear us apart." Michael, weak and tired of the conflict, held her. "Mom, please, don't do this." I looked at my son, disappointment welling up inside me. He was still blind. The note and the witness weren't enough. I fell silent, but my silence wasn't surrender. It was the calm before the final blow. I took a step back and placed the leather-bound diary on the table next to the note. The thud it made in the quiet room sounded like a judge's gavel. "What's that, Mom?" Michael asked, frowning. Jessica stared at the book, the color draining from her face. She recognized it. "I believe this belongs to you, Jessica," I said. "I found it in an old chest in the attic, along with a lot of articles about Emily." Michael picked up the diary, still looking bewildered. He opened it to the first page. As he did, I told him about Eleanor Albright's phone call. I told him about James, about the deceased daughter Clara, and how Jessica had tried to transform herself into a dead girl. Michael listened as he flipped through the diary. I could see the change on his face, a painful process unfolding right before my eyes. Confusion turned to doubt, then to shock, and finally to absolute horror and rage. His hands trembled as he read the sick, twisted words, the jealous and calculated plans aimed at the wife he had loved so dearly. He looked up, and the way he looked at Jessica wasn't the way a man looks at his wife, but at a monster. I knew this was the moment. I turned to my son, my voice no longer cold, but filled with pain and accusation. Are you still going to defend her, Michael? Do you still think this is a misunderstanding? Are you so willing to ignore everything for your own selfish desire for happiness? Do you have any idea what's been happening to your own son under this roof while you were busy living in your fake perfect world? I walked over to Noah, who had run down in fear and was hiding behind me. I knelt down and gently pulled up my grandson's sleeve. The faint bruise from Jessica's grip a few days ago was still there, a faint blue-purple mark on his pale skin, and the red imprints of 5 fingers were still visible on his arm. "Look, Michael, look closely," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "This is how she connects with Noah. This is the love she has for your son." Michael was frozen. He stared at the bruise, and it was like a jolt went through him. A flood of memories hit him. The times Noah flinched when Jessica came near. The little scratches on his hands she'd explained away as boys being boys. The times Noah was unusually quiet after being alone with her. All of Jessica's smooth explanations now seemed like blatant lies. He looked up, his eyes red with fury and guilt. What did you do to my son?" he whispered, his voice hoarse. Jessica knew she couldn't deny it anymore. With all her escapes cut off, with her mask torn away, the demon inside finally showed itself. The pitiful victim vanished, replaced by a raving, bitter lunatic. "Yes!" she shrieked, her voice shrill. "I did it! So what? I hate him. I hate the way he looks at me, the way he's a constant reminder of his perfect mother. He's a burden, an insult to our love." Smack! A stinging slap landed across Jessica's face. Michael had hit her. His whole body was shaking with rage. "Shut up, you animal. You don't deserve to even say my wife's name. You don't deserve to be in this house." "Michael!" Jessica screamed, holding her reddening cheek. "You hit me?" "I should have done it sooner," Michael roared, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the police. You're a child abuser, a dangerous psychopath." Seeing the phone, Jessica lunged like a wounded animal, trying to grab it. "No, you can't. You'll ruin everything." Michael shoved her away hard. Jessica fell in a heap on the white wool rug. Then she suddenly scrambled to her feet and lunged towards Noah. I quickly pulled Noah into my arms. I held his small, trembling body tight, whispering words of comfort in his ear. "It's okay, my love. It's all over. Grandma's here. No one is ever going to hurt you again." Michael quickly restrained her and called the police. The wail of police sirens grew closer and closer. Michael stood there, looking down at the woman screaming and crying on the floor, his face as blank as a stone statue. After the police had taken Jessica away, after the house fell into a frightening silence, Michael slowly turned around. He walked over to Noah and me. He couldn't meet my eyes. He slowly knelt in front of his son, his face streaked with tears. "Noah, son," he choked out, his voice broken. "Daddy, I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible father. I'm so sorry, sweetie. I didn't protect you. Please, please forgive me." I stood there, holding my precious grandson, silent tears rolling down my own cheeks. My family was broken, but in the ashes, at least a father had found his way back to his son. The road ahead would be long, but we would walk it together. A year has passed since that day, a long, difficult year. Michael and Jessica's marriage was annulled. With the evidence from the diary and Mrs. Albright's testimony, the court issued a permanent restraining order, forcing Jessica into psychiatric treatment and forbidding her from coming within a mile of my family. We never heard from her again. She vanished from our lives like a nightmare at dawn. Michael went through a dark time. He blamed himself for putting his son in danger, for letting his own grief cloud his judgment. He sought therapy to learn how to forgive himself and how to be the father his son truly deserved. Since then, his world has become smaller, revolving around just two people, Noah and me. He hasn't looked for a new love, hasn't tried to fill the empty space beside him. He's poured all his energy into filling the empty spaces in his son's soul and in his own. Today, on this beautiful autumn afternoon, I'm sitting by the living room window, looking out at the manor gardens. Michael and Noah are planting a new maple tree together. Not the fragile white lilies of Emily, a maple tree with strong roots and leaves that will turn brilliant colors with the seasons, steady and resilient. Noah is laughing. His clear, fearless laughter echoes in the crisp air. He's covered in dirt from head to toe, and Michael is right there with him. My son is showing Noah how to pack the soil around the base of the tree, kneeling down to his son's level, patient and gentle. Every so often, he looks up, not for anyone else, but just at the blue sky, a quiet peace on his face, a look I haven't seen in years. I see Michael watching Noah, and for the first time since Emily died, a true, unburdened smile spreads across my son's face. His happiness is no longer a desperate search for something outside himself, but a quiet discovery in the joy of his own son. He has found his purpose in being a father, a role he almost lost forever.